Okay, I have a short amount of time to do this today. I'm going to wait just a few minutes just to allow some people to roll in before I get started. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for a few people to roll in, I'm going to try to eat a little bit more of my breakfast bar here. All right, good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. I should have crammed this breakfast in my face earlier, but didn't quite get it done as I was running a little bit behind as usual, and wanted to be able to spend a full hour on this session, and just ended up getting a little bit behind on some things, and so we're gonna have to cut it down to about anywhere from 45 to 50 minutes. We'll see. That's if I could even talk that long, but I think I can talk on the idea or the topic of leadership for quite a while, actually. Um, just simply because there's so many ways to define it. I don't think there's like a one size fits all. I don't think there's one book out there that answers the question, or this latest and greatest book is going to make you the best leader. Because if that was the case, then we would hire everybody that read the latest and greatest book on leadership. So I'm going to go over today some of the ideas that I have and developed through my lifetime being in different leadership roles. Whether it was officially, unofficially, by title, not by title. Because like I said, there's no, I mean, well, let me do this here real quick. I'm going to get the textbook definition of a leader. Let's start with that, okay? Because perhaps I use that as a foundation to talk about whether I agree with the textbook definition versus personal experience, life experience, my role being in there. So let me finish this breakfast and then we'll get into that first, okay? So appreciate a lot of you popping into the live stream. Looks like we have people coming in from several different platforms right now. Cerulean, good morning. So we are live streaming today on, and pardon me for chewing. Like I said, I'm running a little bit behind. I want to hurry up, get this breakfast in, and get going on this topic before I get into my first workday meeting. So one more bite, and we will get rolling. It's going to be a pretty cold, cloudy day today. actually thinking about who do we got here? Ice Alpha. Hey, welcome to the stream again. uh, I'm actually thinking about taking the GoPro and going up on the roof, setting it on the tripod, and putting it in time lapse, looking out at our mountains today. So just to watch the clouds form, clear up, develop over the mountains and everything. So I might do that today, just to have something interesting to do today. All right, let's get moving in this topic here. All right. So for those of you that just joined in, so I am live streaming on TikTok Live. I'm also on Twitch and YouTube again this morning. So TikTok Live, appreciate all you stopping in. Already getting lots of hearts, lots of love. And we are also over on Twitch and YouTube under the same username, Power Karma, if you want to head over that way. Now, let's get into this topic here. Leadership. All right. I've been asked a number of times by some different people in my audience to talk about leadership. I think I don't want to mention the name, but one of the specific comments I had is the person mentioned that their boss said that they're not a good leader. Can you help me with some leadership? And so I said, like, yeah, I could do that. You know, I could talk about leadership a lot. Like I said, in my lifetime, I have spent a great deal of whether it's professional career or personally in personal type organizations, which I don't want to go into complete details on some of those, but in some way I've always been called out to lead in some capacity from a very, very early age. I'm talking like 17, 18, 19 years old. So I want to get into the topic of leadership and what is it. Now, again, I'm going to give the textbook definition here just in a minute. And then I'm going to talk about my thoughts, my ideas, how they develop in where I am today in my thoughts in leadership overall, okay? So let's look at the official definition. All right, so leadership as a noun, the action of leading a group of people or an organization. That's a pretty cut and dry definition. It doesn't really get into a lot of details. El Fuego, how you doing? El Fuego? That doesn't really get into a lot of fine points and details of what makes a leader or how do you become a better leader or so forth. And those are the types of questions that I get asked, okay? Some of you know that I work for a multi-billion-dollar corporation and have for quite some time have led a team of people in accomplishing some major goals and projects and so forth within the organization. Naturally, a lot of people will come to me for some guidance and thoughts and ideas. So let's look at, they have another definition here. So that's pretty much just it. The action of leading a group of people in an organization. So let's talk about that for a second. All right. First of all, let me just say something about some different things I can say about being a leader. First of all, for the person that asked me about, well, they didn't ask. Their comment was, my boss says I'm not a good leader. Well, that's pretty discouraging right there. Because my assumption would be, because I didn't get to further clarify with this person or this individual, so you must be in a leadership role. That would be my assumption, okay? So if they're in that role, they were put in that role for some reason, and perhaps they just need a little bit more guidance on what to do, what not to do, okay? Now, again, I'm going to give you some ideas that are not necessarily cut and dry, one size fits all. I'm just going to kind of give you my experience and where uh, I've kind of developed my leadership habits. Okay, some good, some bad. I've had to correct some through the years to where I feel that they're pretty refined today. And I would still even not even consider myself a great leader. But if this says anything, in my department, I have extremely low turnover. Like some people have been in my department uh, 20 plus years, 15 years, so forth. So um, let's talk about different leadership styles now. So uh, in one organization I was involved in, there was a book on leadership. It was a required read, and it talked about different types of leaders. So, and I may not be able to go through the entire list, but I'll just kind of give you an idea what it is. So you have the typical leader of followers, leader of leaders, uh, followers of followers, followers that could be a leader that's a leading followers, followers that are leaders that are actually leading leaders, and so forth. So all these different categories of where leadership can fall. So you don't necessarily have to be titled a leader to be leading. You could be someone that falls naturally within a follower role, but you're still leading. Okay. Um, as an example, um, I've had some different leaders in my life, some good, some bad. And I don't necessarily want to say the bad. No, there were some that were really bad. Okay, well, I'll leave that in there. I was trying not to be negative in some capacity, but no, I can think of one guy that it was just bad. Okay, I won't go into details on that one, but I can give you an example of a leader that did not really know how to lead me or most of the people in the department. So I define that person more as a person that is a follower put in a leader role, trying to lead leaders and followers. So they're leaders and followers within the group, but the guy is truly a follower with a leader title. Okay, so in those cases, the follower has to teach the leader how to lead them. Okay, and that could be challenging for some because it would be natural to think, well, this guy doesn't know how to do his job. Why is he above me? You know, that's usually the negative aspect of that. And when really it's an opportunity to teach someone how to lead you. And I often, with this particular leader, had to take charge and show him how to lead me. So I was usually taking actions, stepping into the role of the leader without actually taking lead. And so essentially, effectively showing him how to lead me. Okay. So that's one idea. And then you have the leader, of course, the natural leader of followers, right? And in my experience, it comes natural for some, and some it doesn't come natural. Okay. In my case, I learned a term today. I'm going to see if I can remember it, but I think everybody's familiar with the term introvert and extrovert. Okay. But I learned a term today. I want to say that it was called an ambivert. Okay. Which means that you can be both extrovert and introvert. Okay. Kind of new concept to me. It's probably been around forever, just new to me today. I just learned it. Okay. Because as I was responding to this particular app on a question, I know that I'm both. But while I used to be able to say that I am definitely introvert, I like to be to myself. I don't really like socializing with people. I don't even like shaking hands. Um, I prefer just to be on my own. Uh, but when called upon, I can also be an introvert. such as teaching class, being in front of a large group of people, socializing when I have to, being in those moments where I need to be. Okay, so my leadership style, developing as a youth, it was kind of odd to me because while I like to be to myself, there was something about, I guess, my persona, my personality that led people to me to lead them. So often as a young man, I was either leading groups of people, organizations, and it was just because by personality or trait, I would step into those roles. Not that I was raising my hand and like, I want to be the leader. People would gravitate towards me to take charge. Okay. So you have that type of leader that doesn't really realize that they are a leader. Okay. Now I am going to be all over the place. I didn't bullet point any of these here. I just want to give you some different concepts through my experience as a leader. Okay. So you have that kind of leader, and I can even say that that type of leader, I see that has my son has inherited that kind of leadership as well. Let's put it like this: he works for a major. I just put it for a major store. Yeah, ambiverts. Yes, I like that term, Monday. So I've discovered that my son has that sort of same natural talent. At the age of 17, 18, he was already leading teams of people at the place that he's working today, and has gotten already 3 to 4 promotions. He's 21. My son is 21 years old, and he actually leads a team of people larger than I lead. He leads a team of 85 people, where my team is, I think, 10. So, but what the size doesn't really matter. I guess it's really more about what the team does, across the organization. So, so there's that that leadership where people just kind of gravitate to you because of your persona and your personality. Okay. Now, let me talk about some bad. I don't know. I don't want to call it bad because, like I said, I didn't want to be negative about this topic. But yes, there was a bad leader. But let's just talk. Let's just say, not that one that I'm truly defining as bad. But let's just say that there were some leaders in my life that I didn't really think they were great leaders, and I couldn't wait to kind of get them out of my life. I don't want to say out of my life, but out of my circle of work, and that they were no longer my leader because it just wasn't effective. I think it was, and I can think of one situation where this one leader, I look at even today the number of people that really don't like his style, and he has a bit of high turnover, and his leadership was not for me by any means. Okay, now I did learn some things from him, but I also learned some things that, as if I ever become the leader of this department, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this to my people. Okay, and a lot of it was just a conflict in personality. Two intellectual people trying to insult each other with words often, and their intellect, and it created just for a toxic environment. Now, where I was able to keep working for this leader came from my ethic and the type of training that I received as a young man. The organization that I was involved in many, many years ago, again, I'm not going to go into details of the organization, but it was really a school that was about developing leaders, and it was, I think a lot of people have heard the term, or the real relationship of, climbing a ladder, people on the ladder. When you are climbing the ladder and you got people above you and you got people below you, you don't try to on the you don't try to get on the ahead on the ladder by jumping ahead of the person that's above you, or pushing the person down below you. Uh, in order for everybody to get up the ladder, you gotta like be able to support and help the person behind you if they're stumbling, and helping making sure that they're staying up on the ladder so that you can continue to go up the ladder and so forth. Now, I'm not going to say that skips and stuff like that don't happen, but the idea is you don't tear down your leaders. Um, you know, you support your leaders no matter the case. Now, if it comes down to something that's truly ethically wrong, and obviously you don't follow that leader. Okay, I'm not going to go there. If it goes truly against your core and values of what is ethically wrong and correct, then obviously you're not going to follow that leader. But in the sense of all within the realm of things that are actually right, you just don't necessarily agree with that direction. You do everything you can to support that leader. Okay, so that's kind of my upbringing, is helping your leaders no matter what to succeed. Okay, even if you don't agree. So oftentimes in leadership, leader wants you taken a certain direction. You don't necessarily agree with it. Well, you have a responsibility as a follower to adopt what that direction is and be able to communicate and transfer that message to the people below you. So if your attitude towards that leader is, or that direction that you don't necessarily agree with, and you communicate it, well, this is what they're saying at the top, or this is what we have to do. If you don't own that, you are going to fail as a leader for those people that you're following. Okay. Just because you disagree with it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad direction. You have to find it within yourself to support that leader, support that idea, and you have to buy in to be able to sell that message to bring your team into success of giving that person an opportunity to go in that direction, whether it fails or not. Okay. All leaders have put some ideas out that have failed and some succeed. I have put some ideas out in my department that bombed. Okay. But my team supported me in that direction. They were believers and they moved in that direction. Okay. But back to this leader, in his style, there were several things that I couldn't really adhere to. But I had a role in this company to, as a person that's under this person, to be able to still get the job done and support this person. And I did that no matter what. Even though there was a lot of times where I really don't like this guy. I don't like the direction we're going. But you have to sometimes be able to, you have to support those leaders and push them to lead you, okay? Now, let's talk about myself as a leader. Things that I do and don't do, okay? One of the key principles in my style of leadership is communicating with my people like I would with my kids, okay? Now, I don't mean treat them like children, so don't mistake that. What I mean by that, and perhaps some of you may not relate, potentially, okay, because I by no means mean having a relationship like a parent-child relationship, okay, in traditional sense. Because for me, raising my kids in a parent-child relationship was a lot of communication took place, okay? So my kids today know that they can come to me and talk to me about anything because I don't pass judgment in things that they tell me, whether it's right or wrong. I'm going to let them know whether I disagree or whether it's right or wrong. I won't have the TPS report ready before snack time. Something like that. That's funny story. Um, and so what I mean by treating them like I treat my kids is I treat my kids with a great deal of respect so that we have open communication. Okay, and that's how I translate that into my employees. So my employees know um, that they can come to me and talk to me about anything. And I won't get into like some of the topics that have been brought up or anything like that, but um, there have been some uncomfortable discussions had. But it was because that person knew that they can come to me, and it may have been in a professional sense and on professional time, but it was actually a personal situation. And so they looked to me to help them with that. Okay, and so it's very very important with any team that you learn to have open dialogue, clear communication. Um, you really have to be able to have a lot of empathy, sympathy, a listening ear, and and talking to your team. It's not about always about talking about yourself. Okay, and I had one leader that who was pretty good about talking about himself. Okay, um, so much that he talked about himself that in an hour conversation, you really got about you know 50 minutes of that person talking about himself, and so you got 10 minutes to really discuss the things that you needed to talk about. So anyway, let's not go there. You have to have open dialogue with your team. Okay, they got to be able to know that they can come to you, discuss anything, even cuss at you if they need to, and then you earn a greater deal of respect that way. Okay, and I can think again as I'm thinking about my kids in this idea. My kids have a great deal of respect for me and what I do and how I help them, and I have a great deal of respect for them because they have learned to have those open dialogues and communications with some very sensitive and uncomfortable things. Okay. Other things that I've learned to do a lot with my team in effective leading is the communications. Okay. Let me talk about that for just a bit. Hold on, I gotta check the time here, y'all, because I gotta remember I am a bit short on time today, so I may not be able to get into this in depth as I would like to, because like I said, I could probably talk about this for a while. So I'm gonna just try to quickly and clearly get out a few ideas about it. Okay, so communications is key in being a leader. Okay. Whether it's how you communicate a message to your team, what the dialogue looks back and forth between you and your team. Now, something I will point out is that I was not always an effective communicator. I definitely not, especially as someone that is truly an introvert. Even though I can answer the question today, both extrovert, introvert, and fall under this definition of an ambivert. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. I think it's ambivert. But early days, I did not like communicating to people. I did not like talking to people. I really did not. I was the type of person that I wanted to sit in the back of classroom. I don't want anybody to mess with me. I don't want anybody to talk with me. I'm not going to get up in front of the room for any sort of assignments where you got to talk about your assignment or whatever. Okay. I can be CB. Oh, all right. Let's not go there. That's a different topic altogether. I can recall even one time. I was in an English class. I want to say it was sophomore or junior year. I can't remember exactly, but there was this assignment we did. I vaguely remember doing the assignment, and the teacher wanted me to come up to the front of the classroom and talk about it, and I was just flat out refusing. I wasn't going to go do it. She begged and kept prompting me to go up and do and want to do this assignment or get up and talk about this assignment. And I refused. So she came back to the classroom, grabbed me by my arm, not like aggressively or anything like that, but kind of grabbed me by the arm and was wanting to kind of like drag me up to the front of the classroom. Well, within that instance, I remember grabbing all my books and everything. And as she was kind of dragging me up to the classroom, got up to the front, she let me go. I kept heading for the door, walked out the door, down the hallway, out the front doors of the school, down the street, around the airport, and walked home, it was like probably 3 or 4 miles to get home. I just went home because I was not going to do it. That's how much of an introvert I was. Now, today's a different story. I've had to learn to be an effective communicator, especially, again, being in the role I am in a multi-billion-dollar corporation, constantly dealing with VPs, CEOs, so forth. Learning to socialize even because I was extremely antisocial, okay? So in dealing with your team, you obviously have to be able to communicate with the team and effectively communicate with your team. So you have to learn to be social, and that was a hard part for me to as a leader to be social and learn to interact. I could often. It's very easy for me to tune out and not want to deal with people or kind of crawl back to the corner, okay? But that's not going to work with leading people, okay? You can have those moments where you do that, kind of crawl back in the corner and, kind of be to yourself, but you are going to have to learn to socialize and be with your people. And the key to learning to socialize with people, I learned this a long time ago, whether you realize it or not, people actually like to talk about themselves. So when people like to so how do you get people to talk about themselves? Ask a lot of questions. And ask the questions because they're meaningful and you want to learn something about someone, okay? So sometimes the dialogue will go back and forth where, hey, you have to interact and kind of relate. But you want to learn to socialize with people? Ask a lot of questions. Hey, how did you get into that, or so forth? Just think about questions, but you can also make those questions centered around the things that you want to learn about that person or learn about a specific thing that they do. Okay, so just ask questions, and you can learn to socialize. Let's see here. Let me stop for a bit just to read some of the chat. Once found my boss. Day zero. That's pretty funny. That's a good way to get a promotion. I'm not going to read the comment, but it is pretty funny. All right. All right. Where are we at on this topic? Let me see my time here. All right. I still got about 10 minutes left here. Okay. So again, like I said, I'm not going to be able to. I could ramble on and talk about this idea for quite a while. And I didn't really bullet point anything out. I just want to kind of lay out some general thoughts and ideas on this topic of leadership. So again, I'm not going to give you a one-size-fits-all. I've already read to you what the dictionary version of it is, but leadership really is a lot of things to everyone, and there's so many intricate parts to actually being an effective leader. Okay. Okay, let's talk about that for a sec. Cerelia, and you bring up an interesting point, okay? Those that have the knowledge of my position, okay? The easier superiors, okay, I'm going to say that you're saying that it's easier to respect superiors for those that have the knowledge of the position. Let's talk about that for a sec, because sometimes you're going to have leaders that don't really have the in-depth knowledge of that position, okay? And that's where the idea of sometimes you have a leader that may not necessarily have the deep understanding of every detailed function of those different job roles. Okay, now I'm in a fortunate position that the job role that I'm in as a leader, I have 30 plus years of experience in it, so I have a great deal of respect. But every now and then you have those leaders that they're essentially put in the position because they're a good leader, while they may not necessarily understand or have in-depth years of experience within that particular function. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. Okay, so that's going to be that type of leader where they're put in that role for a reason, because they probably know how to build teams, they know how to get teams to work together and so forth. And that's kind of where, even though my role is within a specific function, a specialty, I could pretty much take my skills and go through and work with any team, build any team, because a lot of times my job is not directly dealing with the technical aspect of that job. It's generally being the guy that is the motivator, the guy that's bringing the teams together, and getting everybody on the same page and moving forward to accomplishing goals. Even identifying where you have different weaknesses in the team, and how do you get that person on the same page, or two members of the team don't necessarily have working personalities, and how do you work with those people? So you have those leaders out there that fall in that role. That, yes, it's easier to respect someone that has all the background in what you're doing in that department and so forth. But you got to remember, sometimes leaders are just put out there because they're effective at leading teams, even though they may not understand that specialty. But what's going to make that leader good is when he's learning and asking a lot of questions to learn those functions. I had one leader years ago. When he came in the department, like, he had a certain reach of knowledge within what we were doing in our department, but not all of it. Okay, and he admitted that often. But as we were working together, I found him asking a lot of questions, and so I actually got to the point where I felt personally, is this guy testing me? That was my thought, because he was asking me about this or that, and I'm thinking, is he more testing, do I actually know this stuff, or is he really learning? And so that is where another a part of being an effective leader, effective communication, is asking questions and clarification. So when I felt that, I just asked him directly, said, hey, are you testing me? And so no, it was, I am actually trying to learn a little bit more about these things. So you, again, it's all part of developing that sort of relationship where you can have those open dialogues and not be critical, okay? And not be critical, okay? All right, let's look at time here. All right, I got about 5 minutes left, and I do got to get on with my workday and meeting. Let's talk about this communications part just a little bit more, okay? Because this is something that I am finding that I am dealing with more and more. And that is when you are dealing with, hold on, I got a buddy in here, so, hey, man. All right, we're talking about gaming here on the side chat as well over here. So one of the things that I've been working with on several people on my team, and something that I learned years ago, okay? It's going to sound sort of cliche, seems obvious, but people don't realize how often they do it. Okay, and that is in communications, learning to use I and we instead of you. Okay, now let me explain what I mean by that. Okay, I got about 5 minutes before I gotta shut down here. Okay, so in many conversations, both whether it's verbally or email communications, sometimes you are dealing with conflict, and maybe it's not conflict, but generally, let's just kind of leave the relation there to conflict. Okay, um, it's very easy to use the word "you" in a lot of conversations. So, in other words, hey, I saw this and I noticed you did this, or you are that, or you are so forth. So even in like marital relationships or things like that, it's when you're dealing with conflict, it's very easy to say, well, you're doing this, you're doing that, um, and so forth. So uh, to turn that around and to be more effective, because when you are saying you, it's very easy for the person on the opposite end of that you, and you notice I'm using the finger point because it is kind of like finger pointing. Um, it's very easy to get on the defensive mode, defensive position. So when you're using you pay attention to body styles, and if people are crossing their arms, so defensive posture, and you might even, if you're dealing with someone that's a fighter, you're going to get a bit fight back and push back, and then it's going to just be you back at you, and then you're pointing you back at you, and you and you and you, and so forth. So I've turned had to work with some members of my team where even in their email communication style, they're using the you a lot to point out the fault in, like, hey, I did my job, but you this, and you have to learn as a leader to turn everything into I and we. Okay, I'm not saying that that dismisses the person whether they were truly wrong, but in part of being a leader, you have to be a problem solver. Okay, and so a lot of times that begins with even if somebody did this and it wasn't right, you're going to say, like, hey, I believe that this is what's going on and this is how I feel about this, and I think we can probably fix this by doing this. Okay, so in some way it's kind of like taking on some of the blame, but you're not. Okay, and you're not really identifying where the blame is. You just got to learn to be a problem solver without escalating with the you this, you that. Pay attention to it in your conversations, especially if you have a spouse or a significant other. Um, you know, it's much easier to solve a problem if you're saying, "Hey, I believe this and I feel this," or "I'm sorry, but I feel this way when this is happening." Okay, so rather than saying, "Hey, you did this to me and it made me feel bad," it's like, "Hey, but I think we could solve it if we talk about it." Okay, so again, it's just one of those things that I kind of talk to my team about in your emails and your communications. Learn to use I and we and not always you. Okay, in fact, try not to use you at all if you can. Okay. So that's just going to be one more concept that I'm going to leave out there, as in different leadership styles that I've learned through the year as far as effective communication. Try to be a problem solver in your communications. If you're quick to point and say you're just going to continue to have problems and issues. So you got to learn to be a problem solver and learn to use I and we. Okay. All right. I have rambled on the topic of leadership, what it is, for a while, and again, I have by no means gotten into every bit of it. So, like I said, I'll just kind of recap a couple things, and we'll cut out here. Anyone can be a leader, honestly. Okay, and those leaders can fall in different categories. Sometimes you have leaders that are true leaders that are leading followers, okay? And then you have leaders that are leading leaders. You have followers that are leading followers. So within the mix of those followers, you have leaders, you have leaders. And then you even have followers that are leaders that are actually leading leaders because they don't know how to lead. So you have to learn to teach that person to lead you. So you don't take it as well, this guy doesn't understand their job, so why is he leading me? No, you take it as an opportunity to show that person how to lead you, okay? That's if you're a leader within those followers, okay? So anyways, that's going to do it for me this morning. Appreciate all you sticking around. I do got to get on with my workday. I got a meeting coming up. So TikTok Live, got you here. Appreciate all the love, all those you stuck around. Appreciate all the hearts. We're also over on Twitch. Appreciate you sticking around for the discussion over on Twitch and YouTube. Had a few people here pop in on the comments over here on YouTube. So appreciate you. I will do this again because, again, the leadership topic is extensive, and I think we could just go on and on sharing and bouncing ideas versus the dictionary definition of the action of leading a group of people or organization. Because believe me, action of leading the group is very broad and extensive when you think about that. All right, Dimitri, we'll see y'all. Have a good day, everyone. TikTok, we're out of here first, so we'll see you. Goodbye, TikTok. And now, all right, next, YouTube, we'll see you over here on my left. YouTube,